Hello everyone, and welcome to another Scent Saturday, where today I'm going to be talking about the difference between fragrance oils and essential oils. Pretty much the difference is an essential oil is natural and a fragrance oil is artificial. But I thought I'd start by looking at a fragrance oil. This one is Cedarwood by Aroma Energy. And I'm going to do a little comparison between some essential oils. This one here is an ancient wisdom, or it's just, yes it is. It's an ancient wisdom oil, which is 100% pure as it claims. And interestingly, I have another cedarwood that is from Nikura, but they smell quite different. So I thought maybe we can have a little bit of a comparison going on. Now, starting with the cedarwood from Aroma Energy, this one is a fragrance oil that is actually quite accurate to the natural oil. That's not always the case. Usually a fragrance oil is kind of like night and day. You can tell when there's an artificial scent in the room. But this one, it's pretty surprising. So let's try and decode it and understand the scent. So it's okay, it's an interesting one, this, because I've smelt cedarwood so many times in all different versions, and this one, it's pleasant. It's really nice, actually. It's interesting that it reminds me of something I said last week about the frankincense and myrrh. The smell is almost like charred timbers or some sort of tar that has been glazed over old wood. Now, the reason why I say this is because there's this old boatyard or an old shipyard near me, and the boats there, they're 200, maybe 400 years old, and the wood has this really sort of ancient sort of tarred smell to it that is basically cedarwood with a little bit of frankincense in the background. It's really nice. Sort of reminds me of bonfires, actually, like after it's gone out and you've got that sort of charred smell of the wood. Yeah, really nice, actually. I like that. And again, surprising for a fragrance oil, but this is something I want to talk about a little bit more later in the video, because that's not always the case. And I'm curious what it will be like in a diffuser, because fragrance oils, to me, they start off smelling nice, but after a while, I feel they almost leave like a taste in the back of your mouth sometimes. There's something quite odd about that artificial side of the oil, but later I'll talk about that. So let's try this ancient wisdom essential oil, and this claims to be 100% pure. I do believe it, because I've smelt this one as well. And okay, yeah, in comparison, straight away, this is multiple times stronger, which is interesting because fragrance oils are usually a stronger scent. Not today. It's literally like, if I could go back to that analogy of the older wood, it's if I could take the timbers and bring them right up to my nose. It's really intense, a lot older and more depth to it as well. So that's I think probably the real important point to take away is essential oils. They're usually a lot more interesting in my mind. There's something about a fragrance oil that usually links them together. There's something quite similar, even with things that shouldn't be. Like, for example, if you had a watermelon and cut grass, they still smell about sort of 50-60% of the same sort of scent. But this, no, it's a lot of depth. It's actually, how should I say? Okay, it's like a chicory or something else in the background. There's a slight bitterness to it, and it's got a lot more of that sort of smokiness. The timber smells almost like cut wood as well that has been charred. So quite interesting. And I don't know why. This bottle seems to react to the heat in my hands. It's just spilt everywhere. I don't know if you can see that, but I'm going to smell of cedarwood all day, I think. So let's try wiping some of that off. Otherwise it's going to change my opinion of the next oil, which is the Nikura cedarwood. Now this one, it says on it that it's a Himalayan, so perhaps it's a different variety of timber that's used. I mean, it certainly smells different. It's got a slight sweetness to it, actually. And I would say almost, is it camphorous? That sort of almost like tea tree smell as well. You use it as one of those sort of inhalers for if you want to unblock your nose. I'm not quite sure how I feel about that. There's a lot going on there. It's quite complex. And yeah, actually that's what it is. It's almost a little bit like wood preserver. Yeah, not sure how I feel about that, but it's happened multiple times before where the oil smells different in the diffuser, and it may be something that I quite like later on. So in terms of the scents, I would say that yes, there is a difference there, but this is the thing, I've tried so many essential oils and fragrance oils that I can say there's usually sort of three categories that I would mention about a fragrance oil. Firstly, price. Now, a fragrance oil almost always is cheaper, especially if you buy these multi-packs on something like Amazon or eBay. I think some of these, what was the brand of them? Mystic Moments oils, the ones I talked about before, like freshly cut grass. I think it was something like £5 for £8, maybe even less on Amazon. So that's less than what, £1.50 per oil? And yeah, they're not bad, but like I was saying, how there's always like a common note between them. Like a lot of the comments say on the product page, they can't really distinguish between freshly cut grass and something like watermelon. And I think that's a bit of a shame, but you get what you pay for in life. And freshly cut grass, I liked that one. But what I will say is, when I was making this video all those months back about freshly cut grass, I left my diffuser on, and as much as it was great at first, I've got to say after a couple of hours I didn't really like it. And I think this is an important thing to note. And that kind of leads me on to the next part of the difference between fragrance and essential oils. Is a lot of people, a bit like me, have a slight sort of mild allergy to fragrance oils. I'm not sure what chemicals in them, but I know a colleague of mine, for example, if he was anywhere around one of those Glade plugins, he would start sneezing, his eyes would be running, he basically had hay fever from it. For me, I get a slight tightness in my throat, and I can actually taste this almost soapiness. It's not that nice. And it doesn't happen with all fragrance oils, I've got to say. Some of them are lovely, I really like them. Just some of them seem to have a chemical or something that just doesn't agree with me. So that's a real shame. It's probably something to think about as well. You are putting more chemicals into the air that, well, you might want to avoid, because if they're causing allergic reactions to certain people, there's probably something in there that isn't great. And the last of those sort of 3 points that I want to mention is how some fragrance oils try to claim to be the same as an essential oil. That's just not true in a lot of cases. Like, for example, lavender. Now, a lavender fragrance oil can be detected from a mile away. It's quite different from a natural one. And this is where it's problematic, because if you're paying roughly the same price, you're basically being shortchanged. But another way of looking at it is, some companies, they're not trying to sell something that's similar. Like, think of it like orange juice. Now you can get an orange squash or an orange cordial, and it's going to taste artificial, sweet, and very, very different from naturally squeezed orange juice. But they have their own places. I sometimes want a really artificial tasting orange juice, but most of the time I'd say that there's nothing better than a natural, freshly squeezed orange juice. It's something that perks you up. It feels good, it tastes good, smells great, and yeah, I don't think you can really make that comparison. Now, the same thing is applicable for oils as well, I'd say, because in the end, if you want to get that sort of artificial scent, well, you've got to buy an artificial oil. If you want something natural, well, you know where to go. There are options out there. And like I say, you do get what you pay for. With an essential oil, you might spend 10, even 20 pounds on one of those, and it's going to smell probably pretty good. If you spend £1.50, £2, it's not going to always be great. Just that's my thoughts on that. So, as per my previous videos, I'm now going to do a test between the bottle and the scent and aromatherapy diffuser. There's always a difference, and it's always quite enlightening, I would say, to tell the difference. So let's move over to the diffuser. Here's our little lineup for today. These are all cedarwood oils. However, we're going to start with the artificial essential oil, moving up to an ancient wisdom essential oil that claims to be 100% pure, and lastly the Nikura cedarwood, and this is the one that's Himalayan, as it states. So there's actually quite a lot of difference in scent profiles here, but I think it's going to be interesting to explore in the diffuser. I'm going to start off with the artificial oil, and I think it's going to be quite revealing because the ancient wisdom seems to have a lot more depth in the bottle, but we will see if that rings true with the diffuser as well. Now, I thought I'd try this oil again because when I was doing the first half of the video, there was something I could just about smell in the background, but it is smoky, definitely that sort of charred wood, but it's got a slight soapiness to it that I'm afraid to say you do get with a lot of fragrance oils, in my opinion. It's perhaps some sort of chemical that's used in a lot of them that just, I don't know, smells soapy to me. Anyway, let's pop it in the diffuser. Let's try getting out of the bottle. Come on. There's 1, 2, 4 drops of the cedarwood. Again, I can probably get a better close-up here. So this is the cedarwood by Aroma Energy, and if it wants to focus, there we go. It is a fragrance oil, this one, and again, it's better than probably most fragrance oils I've smelled. It's pretty accurate, I would say. Okay, interesting. This oil isn't as strong as I thought it would be, which is a complete contrast to the way it normally is. Essential oils usually are a little bit weaker, in my opinion. That's not a bad thing, it just means you need to put a couple more drops in. And sometimes fragrance oils I find are just a bit overpowering, like a little bit of an assault to the senses maybe. But no, this is quite balanced, it's quite gentle, I would say, which is a good thing. I was going to say, you may see in some reviews online, or just reviews in general with essential oils, people may shoot them down and say they're not very strong because they're so used to this overpowering odour from a fragrance oil. I think it's important to note that's not always a good thing. Please don't believe every scent should be that strong. But no, this one is balanced. It's quite nice. It's very smoky. That's what I will say. Is it almost smells like I've just had some sort of fire in my room, and I'm not quite sure if I like that. It's yeah, just pure smokiness, like charred timber. It's almost less bold than it is in the bottle. There's less depth to it. Again, I'd love to have more comparisons of artificial oils, because I've tried some which just smell chemically. They smell like there isn't really a lot to it. And like I say, some of them you can almost taste as well. I'm probably shooting down these oils a bit too much, because sometimes I've got a little line up here. I've reviewed things like this Christmas spice and the black musk and iced cassis. Like, these are lovely. This one here, in fact, I'm just going to bring this one back out, because yeah, you're just not going to get that from an essential oil. It's incredibly sweet and makes you feel happy, and oh, it's just lovely. I really like that one. It's like honey and all sorts of lovely things that are mixed into that fragrance oil. And it does depend what you want out of a scent. If you want something that smells natural, something that perhaps is a little bit more calming and less intense, an essential oil is what you want. It's really important. Anyway, I smelt enough of this sort of charred wood, and it's time to move on, I think. I now want to move on to the Ancient Wisdom oil, because this one is actually probably the most similar to the previous Cedarwood. It's just got more depth to it, so this will be quite interesting. Because it's spilt out the bottle, I know this is quite a runny oil, so I'll try to be careful with it. Okay. Oh, now you don't want to come out the bottle. Okay. There is 4 drops in there. That's probably more than enough. And yeah, I can already smell it in the air. It's on my hands as well. It's a very smoky smell, quite nice, because it does feel reminiscent of some locations I've travelled to. Like I say, those old ancient ships and their timbers. Okay. Right, there's definitely a lot more going on there. It's a nicer scent overall, that's for sure. But it's almost got a slight sweetness to it. Can't quite place that sweetness, just like granulated caster sugar. It's just like slightly sweet, but not so much that it takes away from that overwhelming smokiness and that sort of charred, well, cedarwood. It's still there, and it's okay. So yeah, there's a lot more depth to this one. It's almost a slight sweetness, I would say, like granulated sugar that's been sort of warmed up, so like slightly caramelized sugar in the background, but it's still that very strong smokiness, the one that's reminiscent of these old ancient ship timbers, from something like the Warrior. It's one to look up if you're not familiar with that. It reminds me of the Warrior ship. So yes, it's a little bit like tar, and maybe, well, I'm not too sure, just maybe years and years of being preserved and walked over, or whatever it may be, just some sort of use from the timbers. I don't know if you could say like ancient timbers is a scent, but that's what it reminds me of. And when I just took that sharp breath in, it's almost, you can taste it as well. It's very interesting actually, because I have smelt this so many times with other aromas. I'm trying to think I've got any lined up here. Not here, but there are a lot of scents out there that will have a cedarwood as some sort of base, because that smokiness does work with pretty much any sort of fruits like cherry, or again a tea tree oil, which I do have here. Peppermint would probably work quite nicely as well, in my opinion. I just think it's overall a really nice scent, and the essential oil does have more depth to it, so it does seem like something that's, I want to use the word charming, it's a little bit more like it has more character to it. Feels like there's more going on. Perhaps the way I'd liken this is when I think of someone who maybe tastes wine and they'll say like, oh, this bottle of wine has got a very strong bouquet or whatever, or some sort of real descriptive sort of text that they'll attach to it. It's a bit like that. It just feels like there's more going on. So yeah, I like this one. I'm going to move on to the next though. Last but not least, I'm moving over to the Nikura cedarwood. Now this is the Himalayan oil. It does have some perhaps Latin name that's written on it. I will try to pronounce that, but don't laugh. No, you can laugh. This is Cedarus deodara. Cedarus deodara. So we are going to try this oil, and this one is the one that I think is quite dramatically different actually than the other ones. It's very complex. It's got sort of a very similar sort of cough medicine sort of smell that I've likened to other things. It's almost smells more like a preserving agent that would be used for treating timbers perhaps, but it's definitely got that cedarwood. A slight sort of bitterness, almost like a sort of slightly like ammonia perhaps in the background of that one. It's I don't know if you could say maybe a little fresher, maybe. I mean, not that ammonia is a nice one, but it's got a kick. There's something which sort of wakes you up. I think the other ones are so smoky that they're a relaxing scent. They're a little bit more akin to something like leather. Yeah, this one's different, very different. Okay, lovely. I'm just going to place that one there just for reference. Okay. A go. Okay. Yeah, that's different from the bottle in a very nice way as well. Oh, that is brilliant. It's like the cedarwood from before, but it's got a very strong smell of aniseed. I think quite a few people probably wouldn't like that. Lots of people don't like licorice and aniseed, but I love it. I feel like I say this every time when I talk about scents, but it reminds me of going to a sweet shop again. Licorice comforts, or licorice all sorts, licorice torpedoes, licorice whips. Yeah, all sorts of licorice products out there. That's what this is. Yeah, lots of very strong aniseed smells going on there with that smokiness, the ancient cut wood. It's a lot nicer in my opinion. I'm going to say this now, I didn't think much of it in the bottle, but this wins hands down. The other ones, I can very much take it or leave it. I think, again, they would mix well, but this one on its own, it's really, really nice. Really nice. Yeah, that's, smoky, sweet, slightly bitter. Right, that one is definitely staying on for the rest of the day. And when my housemate gets back, I'm going to see what his opinion is as well, because I don't know if it's just me, but let's give a little reminder. So far, I've got to say, Nakura, even though they're not affiliated with me in any way, they do make good oils. I mean, this one here, again, I know it's not going to focus, is it? Come on, focus on that one. I'm just going to have to read the label again. This is Nakura Cedarwood. It's their Himalayan oil. And with that, Cedarus deodara. And they describe this as earthy. I would agree with that. It's a very earthy, grounding scent. With, slightly bitter, yet sweet notes. I like it. Cedarwood is actually a really interesting comparison because in the past I've tried things like lavender, artificial and natural oils, and there's a very clear difference. In this case, I wouldn't say there's a huge one. I would still opt for that natural oil because I don't think there's a lot of difference in price. Some essential oils don't require a lot of the sort of raw product to create the scent, and in this case I just don't see the benefit of chucking all these extra chemicals in the air just to save a couple of pennies. But in the end, the cedarwood fragrance, it wasn't bad, and you know, I wouldn't hold anything against someone who wanted that. So it was suggested in the last video that I made that there should be a little bit of a Q&A, and I love that idea. I think it'd be great to, well, pose any questions and I'll see if I can answer those. So if there's anything that comes to mind, I guess about essential oils or anything that really you're just thinking about, then I'll be sure to answer that on the next video. I can't think of really any sort of topics at the moment. Usually when people have a question, I will try to answer it in the comments. But yeah, I really love the idea of having this sort of back and forth. And yeah, I'm ready for your questions, I guess. I've got to say I'm thankful that people are happy for the longer format videos because it actually saves me a lot of time in the edit. In fact, I hopefully will be done in the next hour or two. So again, thank you. And again, if you like this sort of format, then I'm going to do more Scent Saturdays. I should probably think of a few things I can do throughout the week as well. So be sure to like this video, subscribe. Also, be sure to let me know if there's any questions you would like me to answer for the next video, or maybe I should just do a separate Q&A video. That'd be quite good. So anyway, I hope to see you soon, and I will see you in the next video. Have a great day. I'll see you later. Goodbye.